Not very many people know that Apple has a DIY self-service repair program, and that Apple sells replacement parts directly to customers. Today, Apple finally released the pricing on all those individual replacement parts for the iPhone 17 lineup. So I'll be mentioning the price of each of these repair items as we take them out of the phone. It's actually pretty surprising. Starting with this tiny pentalobe screw that Apple sells individually for 18 cents each. Thumbs up for that. It does come in black and white, so if you ever want to change the color of your screws at the bottom of your phone, knock yourself out. We're off to a good start. If Apple sells the rest of the internal components for 18 cents each, I might just have to switch over. Getting the rear glass off is quite a bit harder than it looks. This guy is super snug inside the aluminum frame of the iPhone 17. And it's very difficult to get a thin pry tool in between the aluminum and the glass. Glass is glass, but really, unless you're going into the phone to do a battery replacement, you're probably only going to be removing the glass if it's already broken, in which case being careful isn't quite as big of an issue. Heat and isopropyl alcohol help to soften the adhesive under the glass. And to be fair, Samsung, Google, Fairphone, Xiaomi, and Motorola all sell replacement parts directly to consumers as well. And thankfully for us regular people, it's kind of becoming the cool thing for manufacturers to do. And hopefully my teardown videos have played a small part in unleashing the right to repair on the internet. With the back glass unfolded, I have to take out two more Y000 tri-point screws. If you don't have one of these uncommon bits sitting around, I'll link my toolkit for you in the description. My kit has 32 bits, all different sized, and it seems like iPhones usually want to use every single one of them. This back glass is sold by Apple as a complete unit for $159, which seems a tad high to me. It does come with the camera flash, magnets, and wireless charging coil pre-installed. And weirdly enough, Tim Cook will give you a $38.16 refund if you send your cracked glass back to him, bringing the final price to $120 after that credit. I'm sure Apple will go on to harvest the magnets and the copper, which is pretty cool of them. So maybe it's not quite as weird when you look at it that way. But even after that refund, $120 to replace the cracked glass, it's still pretty steep. And speaking of steep, it only gets worse from here. The front screen replacement is a whopping $329, with of course a $16 refund if you send your broke screen back to Tim. And normally I would 100% advocate for a repair before going and buying a new phone, but with prices like that in an economy like this, you gotta look at the numbers and include your wallet in the vote. And you might just be better off getting a new phone from Tello. Tello is the sponsor of today's video, and I'll tell you how insanely inexpensive they can be as I try and fail to get the screen off in one piece. Not only does Tello have a rather impressive selection of refurbished and new smartphones to choose from, they also have the least expensive smartphone plans I've ever seen, starting at just $5 a month. Even if you want unlimited everything, it's just $25 a month. That includes 50 gigs of high-speed data, 10 gigs worth of hotspotting, free Wi-Fi calling, and international calls to 60 different countries, along with international roaming. Getting 4 and 5G coverage without a soul-crushing price tag is rather refreshing. And you can even usually keep your own phone if it's unlocked, and your same phone number when you switch over. There are no long-term contracts, just how we like it, and the link is down in the description. Plus, Tello's got a Black Friday deal going right now. That unlimited plan we talked about earlier is just $15 a month for the first 3 months of service. So if you've been thinking about switching over, this is the time. And thank you to Tello for taking on the big boys. I really wish I would have finished cutting the adhesive around the left side of the screen before lifting it off. I've now got a permanent angelic glow that'll cost me $329 to fix. But knowing myself, the screen's probably not going to be the only thing broken before we're done. The next semi-easy thing to replace is the battery. The battery inside this iPhone 17 is not metal encapsulated like we saw in the 17 Pro, but it is still removable with electricity. I'm taking a 9-volt battery, some alligator clips, and putting the positive terminal on the tab at the bottom. The negative terminal goes on the screw near the charging port, and then we just sit and let it short circuit itself for about 90 seconds. The battery costs $99 to replace, but after the return credit for your old battery, the repair becomes a surprisingly reasonable $51.48. Lithium batteries are 95% recyclable, and Apple already uses 100% recycled cobalt and 95% recycled lithium in the batteries across the iPhone 17 lineup. So the elements inside the battery you send back to Apple might just end up being inside your next iPhone, which is pretty cool to think about. I'm glad Apple is leading the charge on reducing the environmental impact of their devices. And now that the most common repairs are out of the way, let's see what the less common repair parts cost. I'll remove 4 more screws around this metal shield. These shields can be purchased for $4.50. The front 18 megapixel camera ribbon can unplug from the motherboard just like a little Lego. This guy, which includes the Face ID scanners, costs $151 after you get that return credit. Seems a tad high, but that price might drop over time. And obviously, if you're watching this video a few years from now, the pricing on the replacement parts will probably be different. The front earpiece comes off next. This includes and comes with the 5G millimeter wave antenna and costs $67.08. Pay attention to that number. No balls are visible on the outside, but on the inside there are plenty of balls to be found. I'll unscrew 3 more screws near the dual rear main cameras, both of which are 48 megapixels, and come at the very nice price of $169. Neither of the 2 camera units have external optical image stabilization, but the main camera arguably has something better on the inside. It uses Apple's sensor shift technology. Instead of physically shifting the heavy lens around to stabilize the camera footage, Apple has chosen to just shift around the much lighter camera sensor. It's way more efficient and can make adjustments up to 5,000 times a second, using those electromagnets inside each of the corners. Totally worth the $169 just to show off the inside. There's 3 more screws holding down the Taptic engine. If you want to see the insides of this guy, you can check out my vibrator review video. He costs $67.08. Remember that number? The lower loudspeaker comes out next. This guy is also a very suspicious $67.08. Third time we've seen the same number. And surprisingly, there are no balls inside. Just a clear rubber speaker surround, the same stuff we see inside the AirPods. What's actually kind of funny though is that Apple sells this little orange speaker seal for $5.85. Imagine someone just buying a singular speaker seal and one 18-cent pentalobe screw and mailing it across the country. Definitely don't do it though. Apple's worth like $4 trillion and it's not that funny of a joke. Instead, buy something useful, like flowers for your mom. However, I would like to point out something I said during the iPhone 16 teardown video when seeing the same orange gasket last year. Near the speaker opening is a vibrant orange rubber gasket, and I think Apple should make the whole phone this color. And I'm just glad that Apple takes to heart solid suggestions. What color should I ask Apple to make next year? Let me know down in the comments. Finally, here in the USA, Apple has declined to include a SIM card tray, and instead they've just included a blank metal box filled with a slit for the single ribbon cable to pass through, and a couple of plastic blocks that fill up the blank space in the void. Could have been plenty of room for a SD card slot or a headphone jack, but it's all good. I'll pop out the motherboard. This is where the magic happens. Every text you send or post you like or article you scroll through, I'll pass through the chips and the hardware on this tiny double-stacked motherboard. Unlike the iPhone 17 Pro, this regular 17 does not have any vapor chamber or cooling system inside to keep the A19 chip cool. And Apple does not sell the logic boards by themselves. Also, quite interestingly, Apple does not appear to sell the USB-C port by itself either. Not even Apple wants to tackle that job. Do you agree with Apple's pricing? Let me know down in the comments. And as always, it is way less expensive to get the insides of your smartphone on the outsides with one of my teardown skins. Link is in the description, and thanks a ton for watching. I'll see you around.